senior consultant cardiologist at Apollo Hospital, Jubilee Hills, Hyderabad, in India. He is presently working in this particular department, and he is also professor of medicine at Apollo Institute of Medical Sciences. And he is a chairman of the FACTS Professional Services, known as FPS. He is a founding course director of TCT for TCT India Conference, which is a chapter of the TCT in this region. And he's also founder and CEO of FACTS, that is a fraternity of advanced cardiovascular techniques and solutions. I remember him that he was a chairman of the CSI NIC, that is a Cardiological Society of India, National International Council in 2018 to 19, which was a very daunting job, and he did it really good, and everybody has appreciated that job across the country. He has got a passion for the teaching, and he has got a passion for the interventions also. At present, he is also the president of Andhra Pradesh Cardiological Society of India. I welcome Dr. Srinivas Kumar. So he will tell us where to start and how to go about and what we should be watching about. Dr. Srinivas Rao, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Makale sir, for your kind words of introduction. And I really appreciate the efforts of Cordis Cardinal Health in these tough times of COVID pandemic to take such pains to join various countries, and that's how we need to proceed. And Corona pandemic can only demand for social distancing, but it can't socially isolate us. I think all of us are going through tough times, and the same may be in other countries to participating too. I really appreciate the efforts of Cardinal Health and all the people involved, and I thank Dr. Makale and Professor Chin to give this opportunity. As we have seen from the first lecture, that we now know very clearly that radial access site has got many more advantages, not only in terms of less bleeding, but less bleeding also led to less of ischemic events, and that's how the patient's mortality is also decreased significantly. So now that we know that, we need to know about this technique, and then let us now see and how to gain access to the radial arteries properly, and what are the possible likely troubles you could get, and how to tackle these while doing these procedures. I would take you to some of these aspects in my coming 10-15 minutes. As you know, the radial artery is a preferred choice because of its superficial course. And if you see, it is easily, styloid process is again, is easily palpable, bone below, and it is free from any major veins and nerves. And it also has, God has given the dual blood supply to hand. By chance, if anything happens to one, then it is taken by others, so that less of problems could happen to any patient. So access is, the more superficial it is, the more easy for us to access it. But only thing is, we need to know, suppose if you need to use the radial artery conduit for future and for bypass grafts or some of these renal failure patients on dialysis, where it could be used, so we avoid doing these procedures. But for that, what we need to assess before we take up the patient is reassure the patient and explain the procedure to him, and then if required, maybe conscious sedation mild, because that will go a long way in decreasing the radial artery spasm. And left versus right approach, as the doctor preferred left, but right has a lot of advantages while doing the procedural convenience, and palpate the artery well, and most of the times you could feel it better. But sometimes if you palpability wise it is less, probably you can take the help of ultrasound to localize it and see what is the size of the artery. Sometimes when you're forced to do a lima injection or some particular tortuosities which we need to go to left, we do the setup from the left, but by and large we use of right radial artery for doing the puncture. This was very popular Allen's test, as it was told in introduction by Makale also, where it was mandatory in the initial parts to do this, where you press both arteries and release one of this artery, and then keep occluding the radial and see that how the blushing happens. So because of the interpalmar connections, the blushing happens on entire art of the hand, and that's how we were more safer. So rather than only looking at the radial blush of it, later on this concept of introducing a pulse oximetry was there. So in spite of occluding the radial, if you leave the ulnar, it comes from here, and you see the pulsatile wave pattern, and oxygen saturation also improves. That shows that there is interpalmar connection, and even if some occasional radial artery gets into trouble, you won't have any problem to the patient. But as we knew that we were initially very serious about it, but a lot of trials in many centers, we noticed that in spite of it not being there, still patients, God is great, human body is great, and nothing happens to these patients. That's how we do it less commonly now. So if you see the positioning the arm, actually whatever ways you are comfortable with, you can adapt to. This is one when you do it in left, probably you can stand here and do the left radial artery puncture if you have to do it. And the only advantage of radial is it goes similar. The catheter goes and hooks a coronary similar to the femoral in the same way. But if you have to see this, keeping the hand on the right side and standing here, and also you can use this additional radiation protection things because some people had a query of increased radiation for right radial. So what we need to understand is the anatomy of the circulatory process here. This is where we tend to palpate the vessel, and the styloid process here, just above it, you select the site of puncture, and then probably in the same way as a cell linear technique in femoral, you can do it if you're doing a direct axis technique, or the other thing is the transfixation, would I briefly show. What I generally prefer is doing it like antegrade puncture, and this is positioning what we need to keep it, and the hand is externally rotated, probably supported below, and so that it projects well. If it forms a gutter, sometimes it becomes difficult to puncture. So the only idea of turning it and having some support below is to make the patient comfortable and expose the radial artery well. This is a small video I show that while seeing it, then you directly go antegrade and the blood flow comes, and the flow needs to be brisk like that. If the flow is not brisk, generally wires do not go properly. If the flow is brisk, then you go, and then you remove the needle. Once the wire crosses the elbow, you're more sure that you are properly into the vessel. And sometimes if you're not very careful, if it doesn't go freely, it could go subintimal too. So this confirms that probably you're in well. The other way people puncture the radial artery is doing this transfixation technique using that sort of cannulae. And whichever way you're comfortable with, we can do it. But sometimes we use this only when the radial arteries are not very well felt and repeat procedures. But by and large, I am more comfortable doing the antegrade puncture. Each of us could have your own choices. Then once you are done it, then the sheath is removed. This is where you need to know little about anatomical variations which can happen in hand. Normally, it comes through this and goes up. Sometimes it tends to go into very thin vessel. When you try to push the catheters, it doesn't go. This is one of the normal variations we could have. Many of the times, you can also go straight like this. And many of the times they may not be collected in very small percentage of cases. If you see this from here, when you go, it goes here and it both tends to join here and then go ahead. And you need to always check and do this under the fluoro rather than pushing it blindly so that it is more safer. And sometimes you could go into the smaller branches, especially some people tend to have the habit of using thermo wires for taking the catheters in. They could go into the smaller branches. So it is always better to see under the fluoro and then take the catheter wires and then go in. Once we enter in, respiration plays a long role in taking the catheters into the aorta. Suppose you tend to get loops like this here, but when the patient takes a deep breath, everything could get straightened out. Especially in elderly people where they tend to get atherosclerotic, it tends to happen more. So we need to find our own methods, but taking out of those loops, taking deep respiration goes a long way. Sometimes with difficulties, then you could take the help of the 3.5 guides, 5 French guides sometimes to hook the left arteries. So that comes through individual experience, and whatever catheters you're comfortable, you can do it. This sort of problems of abdominal aorta, then tortuosities are not there because we are bypassing all this, and atherosclerotic process of strokes, all that may not be there. But occasionally, even these arteries, you see both arteries are calcified there, you could get into it, and you need to handle the catheters carefully. But in spite of whatever problems you have, you notice very, very minimal complications compared to femorals. All are less than 1%, what is quoted here. But you need to be careful which person goes into that problem. Is always preventable if you observe the procedure while doing it carefully. Then these sort of problems could happen if you're not careful. You could dissect the artery, you could form intramural hematoma, pseudoaneurysm. Spasm is the one which is most common, and keeping the patient comfortable, avoiding the painful situations, and probably mild sedation go a long way in preventing the spasm. And thrombus formations and the occlusion of radial artery and follow-up also happens if you're not careful doing the procedure and also for immediately following. Radial artery spasm, the best way to avoid people have used various types of cocktails. Initially, we also used to use a lot of cocktail positions, but now we give small dose of nitroglycerin, and that's it. And one other important precaution I would advise is don't take too much of saline, especially cold saline, to flush. That also leads to a lot of spasms. And sedation, mild sedation goes a long way. In spite of all this, if a patient is anxious and has some spasm prone, probably you can use a little smaller size catheters and hydrophilic coated sheets. And that's how we could, prevention is the best policy to avoid this spasm. Otherwise, this catheters get into entrapment, very severe spasms, and not careful, entire arteries could get avulsed like that. So there are some techniques described to avoid this severe entrapments of catheters. Probably applying pressure cuffs and then probably sedating the patient helps in taking the catheter out. And sometimes you could find different types of tortuosities. Then the wires could go, but the catheters, especially when you're taking these patients for guide with the PCI procedures, the guide tends to get stuck in the corners and tortuosities like this. So this sort of balloon-assisted tracking technique is what is described in it. So occasionally it will be useful. And when you're taking a 5 French, probably you can take 1.5 mm balloon. And you're taking 6 French guide, you can do 2 mm balloon. And the balloon, minimal of it should be inside, and more than half of it should be outside. And gradually it tracks to that. So it becomes more smoother, and you can take the catheters in with this balloon-assisted technique. But if you're not careful, if you push it across the tortuosities, sometimes you could dissect these arteries and perforate the arteries too. Then other way is you come from the other side and try to cross that. And once you get an access, then probably you could patch it up. Many times you could also go, if you go into smaller branches like this, then you could get into concertina, so you could also get into subcutaneous bleeding. So it's always better to see and go, and never show your pressure, never apply your force and on the patient. And pain is another, sometimes you can take it as an important sign. Whenever patient gets pain, you understand why it is happening, and don't apply pressure and do forceful things. This is mother and child techniques of the catheter. Apart from the balloon assisted technique is another method to go inside. What you need to avoid is the gaps between the two catheters. And when you still face into problem, always image it and probably dilute the contrast and take pictures like this. And then you can know what is the problem, why is it not going. Once you analyze it, then it could be better to avoid complications. So if you see this, sometimes if you don't monitor the things carefully, such sort of perforations which could happen could be missed. Even if you have a very minimal perforation, if you can do the procedure immediately, quickly, and then probably come out safely and then tackle it, it is also possible. And what we need to do whenever you have such small extravasations and which can lead to hematomas and swelling is basically probably this BP cuff and this sort of bandages are good for us. And if you can do proper pressure bandage and apply this sort of radial bands, you could avoid getting into trouble. Otherwise, if you are averse to putting this type of bandages, later on, if compartment syndromes comes, we need to do incisions and cause multiple problems to these patients. So when you apply the pressures too much, one thing you need to be careful is intermittent release is what should be done. And reassure the patient that though discolorations happen, finally it will come back. So sometimes if you put the plasters too much, then you could get into such sort of blebs which would come on the skin, or especially of tender female fragile patients. Other important problems which you face, which you miss out those small puffs, some small bleedings happening, is the development of compartment syndrome, where small micro bleedings which happen cause collections inside and produce compartment syndrome. What are we supposed to do is basically to apply pressure, inflate the cuff slightly 15 mm less than the systolic pressure. And if pressures go high, whenever the pain is there, patients become very hypertensive. Probably that becomes a vicious circle. So properly sedate the patient, control the pressure, and reverse the antithrombotics and give the analgesia. And then this sort of preventive measures of management of compartment syndrome will try to avoid total incisions and problems to the patients. Sometimes when you're not careful, you could also get into pseudoaneurysm. This I brought it from one of these NEJM articles. This sometimes this radial arteries could have a pulsatile pseudoaneurysm. This sort of thing, if it's recognized, probably you can do for ultrasound guide compression, or sometimes thrombin injection, TR bands could help. Very rarely you could require surgical repair. So as I've told you, there are various types of techniques and problems to do the radial artery properly and then avoid getting into complications. I won't bother the viewers with showing more and more troubles. But what I would like to say is I somehow not comfortable with the approach of being radialist or femoralist. It's not like a communism, Marxism, Leninism. It's not radialism. We need to be comfortable with both approaches, and what is good for each particular patient we need to assess. The radial arteries are doable. Probably doing it more comfortably to the patient is all goes a long way, and then patients will be more comfortable. But if you sometimes if you face a trouble, you have to use femoral artery. Probably you can do it, especially in the era of structural heart interventions. Again, we need to be comfortable and be comfortable with the both type of procedures. So what it shows is it's teamwork for finally doing the procedure right. But whether you make this as a radial artery, this as a femoral artery, is up to individual comforts and confidence which each of us have. But finally, our goal is to do good things to the patients. And thank you very much for patient hearing. And I thank all the doctors who have participated. Probably, as Dr. Makale mentioned, recent ETCT meetings, a lot of doctors participated. And thank you all. Some of them from Singapore, Thailand, and neighboring countries also did. And these tough times of COVID, we also started this online training for medical students called FIFA. And all these educative lectures are there in our platform in tctindia.in. I think I wanted to finish in 15 minutes and probably have some time for discussion later. And thank you all for your patient hearing. We can have discussion about various other problems which you could face in radials in after all the lectures. Thank you again.